The UFC has rules for a reason, but sometimes fighters throw the rulebook out the window. Today, we are counting down the top 10 worst fouls in UFC history. These are the cheap shots, instant disqualifications, and unforgettable moments that ended fights in chaos. If you love deep dives into combat sports, hit that subscribe button. Now, let's get to the countdown. At number 10 is Anderson the Spider Silva. In 2006, before he was a champion, Silva fought Yushin Okami. From his back, Silva landed a spectacular upkick that knocked Okami out. The only problem was that Okami had his knees on the mat, making him a downed opponent and the kick illegal. The ref had no choice but to disqualify a stunned Anderson Silva in one of the strangest losses of his career. Number 9 is Michel Pereira. At UFC Fight Night 170, Pereira was dominating Diego Sanchez and minutes from a win. After dropping Sanchez, Pereira landed an illegal knee to his opponent's head while he was clearly on the ground. Sanchez couldn't continue, and Pereira was disqualified, throwing away a guaranteed victory. At number 8, former NFL player Greg Hardy made his UFC debut against Alan Crowder. In the second round, Crowder was on one knee when Hardy drove a powerful, illegal knee straight into his head. The referee immediately stopped the fight, and Hardy was disqualified in a disastrous and controversial start to his UFC career. Number 7 is a highly debated call. At UFC 142, Eric Silva thought he'd scored a 29-second TKO over Carlo Preda, but referee Mario Yamasaki ruled that Silva had landed illegal 12-6 elbows and disqualified him. The decision caused outrage, and though the DQ stood, the UFC paid Silva his win bonus, showing how controversial the call was. The foul at number 6 was just vicious. During his fight with Patrick Cote, Alessio Sakara had his opponent hurt. As Cote shot for a takedown, Sakara landed a series of hammer fists to the back of Cote's head, a highly dangerous and illegal area. The ref stopped the fight, and Sakara was disqualified for the brutal, repeated blows. Breaking into the top 5 is a foul that looked like it belonged in pro wrestling. At UFC 43, a massive Wes Sims was fighting Frank Mir. Getting outclassed, Sims decided to grab the fence, which is illegal, and then started stomping on a grounded Frank Mir's head. It was a deliberate and shocking move, giving the ref no choice but to disqualify Sims. At number 4 is a foul that made UFC history. During the bantamweight title fight at UFC 259, champion Peter Yang was fighting Aljamain Sterling. With Sterling on one knee, making him a grounded opponent, Yang blasted him with a massive illegal knee to the head. Sterling couldn't continue and became the first fighter in UFC history to win a championship belt via disqualification. Number 3 isn't a single foul, but a fighter's entire reputation, Rousimar Palhares. Palhares was a master of the heel hook, but he had a terrifying habit of not letting go, even after his opponents tapped. He was suspended for it in 2010 against Thomas Drewal and released from the UFC after doing it again to Mike Pierce in 2013. His repeated unsportsmanlike conduct made him one of the most feared fighters in MMA. At number 2 is the most famous DQ of all time and the only official loss on Jon Jones's record. At the Ultimate Fighter 10 finale, a young Jones was mauling Matt Hamill. But in the chaos, Jones began using illegal 12-6 downward elbows. Hamill couldn't continue, and Jones was disqualified. The controversial foul remains the only blemish on his otherwise perfect record. And at number 1, a sucker punch after the fight was over. At UFC 113, Paul Daley lost a clear decision to Josh Koscheck. After the final bell, Daley walked up to Koscheck and threw a punch to his face. A furious Dana White banned him from the UFC for life on the spot, cementing it as the worst foul in UFC history. These fouls are a look at the dark side of the octagon, where breaking the rules has devastating consequences. Which foul do you think was the worst? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.